Welcome to the Milset World Virtual Young Citizens Conferences 2020. The International Movement for Leisure Activities in Science and Technology, Milset, presents this program to hear the concerns, proposals, and opinions of young people from all over the world regarding science and technology issues that affect humanity. And well, today we are in our last debate session. We're very excited to welcome our YCC ambassadors that will talk about digital lifestyle and give us all our proposals, their proposals to invent a new world and a better one, of course. My name is Liz Vela, Milset Communication Manager, and thank you for watching. We will stream live through Milset Facebook and Milset YouTube channel. And well, of course, I want to give a big thanks to our authorities, to the Milset Executive Committee, Milset Honorary President, Milset Regional Executive Committees, Milset YCC Committee, Milset members, and all the audience who is watching. Thank you for all the support through this program. We have been very glad to receive you, and we have been very honored with all the people that helped and all the YCC ambassadors. And well, now to give the official welcoming, I would like to present Ms. Ksenia Salnikova. She is a member of the Milset Executive Committee and the program coordinator of Milset. So, Ksenia, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Liz. Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be here and to welcome you all at the Milset World Virtual YCC Conference. I would like to share with you that the goal of this Milset program is to give young scientists, young people like you, a global platform to discuss the social impact of science and technology on the modern world and to share your proposals for the future. Because after all, it will be you who will live in this future. So we really believe that your open-mindedness and your sense of social responsibility will yield important contribution to this global dialogue. So, as you know, the topic of the YCC 2020 is inventing the new world, the world after the pandemic. But the subtopic that we have today is digital lifestyle. So the new reality in which we all began to live recently. So today you just need to discuss and analyze our lifestyle that was drastically modified by the pandemic. You know that changes are happening in all spheres of our life. Almost all social institutions are now transformed. So we are living in digital space, studying, working, and even communicating remotely. So can we somehow influence these changes? Will these changes be irreversible or not? This is what you will discuss today, and I really wish you a fruitful and very interesting discussion. And now let me welcome our participants, our YCC ambassadors from different countries. Let me present Asil Jawad Abdul Halim from Palestine. Let me present Eddie Pot from Mexico. Let me present Eneris Pagan from Puerto Rico. Luis Fernando Rocha Rodriguez from Mexico. And Yang Bin Shin from Hong Kong. Hello, everyone, and finally, let me present your moderator, Mr. Roman Gadas, teacher and a member of International Research School team from Moscow, Russia.
Hello, everyone. Uh, Hello. Well, to begin with, I think that the subject of today's discussion, the digital world, is pretty topical today. Uh, well, it doesn't mean that it's a pretty new story. Uh, we started moving to this digital world since, from the point where the computer technology and the internet started developing. But, in 2020, it so happened at the very beginning that we have probably taken a huge, a major leap forward into this world of digital today or digital tomorrow. Uh, the lockdown and the things that, related to that affected everything. From education to shops. Yeah, a lot of people didn't go to school in Springs, didn't go to universities in Springs. A lot of people didn't go to work in Springs. And moreover, in some countries, in many countries, a new lockdown is going on right now. And it means that, a lot of people work, study, and do everything distantly. For example, if it comes to school, you all know that in many countries all over the world, schools and universities went online last spring and are going online now. According to the statistics published by Guide2Research.com, the pandemic has caused educational disruption across the globe as nationwide closures forced institutions to temporarily close the doors. It is estimated that the closures affected about 70% of the total student population worldwide. And if it comes to work, it goes online as well. It is going online as well. And according to the survey conducted by Slack.com, between June and August of 2020, more than 1/3 of global knowledge workers are working from home. The vast majority, 83% of those currently working from home, do not expect to go back to the office in the next 3 months. What's more, we see little evidence that a migration back to the office is even desirable, with only 12% saying they would like to always work at the office, and over half of all knowledge workers, 72%, expressing a preference for a hybrid remote office model. And it doesn't only come to work and education. We communicate online most of the time. It also started quite a while ago, but again, we have recently made a major step forward into this digital world. So due to the lockdown, we have to work remotely, we cancel our trips, we don't go to restaurants, bars, and shops. And generally, we no longer have the opportunity to see our friends and colleagues, and as often as we did before the pandemic. So generally there are lots and lots of different, issues, maybe not necessarily issues, maybe they are not issues, maybe they are good things, related to what has happened recently. In this connection, definitely, we have a number of questions to you, and I hope, to hear your opinion, and I'm sure that it will be interesting and, great in general. The first question is related to education. Do you think that online classes are as effective as offline ones? And can online education replace schools or the role of traditional education? So who is going to come first? Luis, will you start, please?
Yeah, if we talk strictly on paper, then I would say yes. But in reality, I don't think that's the case. I do agree that both of them are roughly the same regarding content and level of difficulty, or at least they should be. But we can only consider those two things to say they are as effective, because a lot of different factors come into play for these two type of classes. With online classes, the result of them depends most of the time on both the level of interest the students have on the subject and the amount of attention they're willing to pay to those classes. And yeah, some could argue that this is the same for offline classes, but in reality, there's a lot more of distractions whenever you take off online classes from home than in the classrooms. Also, I think that we can't ignore the fact that not all countries or even cities have the right infrastructure to actually commit to fully online classes, causing their students to either raise themselves during this pandemic or to lose a year of educational growth. However, I do think that in some point, online education is going to be able to replace what we consider as traditional education. Not only because that would mean that more people could reach higher levels of education, but also because it would be more practical and people will have the same amount of opportunities when this is not always the case with offline classes. However, to reach this point, we will have to understand that education is necessary and that we can't afford to take it for granted.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Luis. Bertram, what do you think about that?
I will start from the second question first, which to talking about the role that the online lesson, whether the role of online education can replace the traditional education. So first, I think it can replace part of it, which is knowledge transfer. As you can see here, we can easily search some videos in YouTube or in other different resources websites, which actually takes place of traditional education, where students, even when they are away from school, they stay at home, as they can still get access to different tutorials and different exercise to for the knowledge transfer part. But apart from the knowledge transfer part, I think traditional education also is a social setting. I think this is more important than knowledge. Where is all of the students, they get to socialize with different people. They get to establish the social norms through the school setting. Obviously, can get some from their family, from their other environment. But school, they spend most of the time in school, and in school they got the same age, they are friends, as they can easily get to know how to deal with different types of people and how to learn from them, how to know respect and so on and so forth. But during the online lesson, I think at least from my own experience, teacher will only focus on the knowledge transfer part, but they will cover very little about the social norms or other different, we call it general education part. And for the online lesson class, is it effective as offline ones? I agree with the gentleman who just delivered it, and I think it's quite effective, but there are more room to improve. For example, if the students, they don't know how to learn it by themselves, maybe they will spend their time maybe playing a video game, but you will never know that. So I think apart from that part, we should also to teach them how they spend their spare time, how they know to use this time to study, to learn. I think it will be more effective. Yeah, that's my point of view.
Okay, thank you very much. That was very interesting. Adiput, can you add anything?
Yes, I agree with my partners. I think it depends on, for example, in rural communities in which there are no internet and technical equipment, and online classes isn't effective. But in my experience, I have also some laboratory practices with big equipments or machines or engineering tools, and I don't have access to them at my university during quarantine because all the university closed. But in the other hand, the collective work with teachers and universities workers for replace and find the best tools for as an effective education is getting better day by day. And I think these 2 points we have to get in mind that it's not good at all, but it's getting better.
Okay, thank you very much. And finally, Asil, can you say anything?
Hi, can you hear me? So I agree with them that it's effective as offline courses since it's deliver more information more easily and it's flexible and less cost. But it can replace or not. No, it can't because traditional education giving us the experience. Wait a second. Sorry, there's some noises. Traditional education give us the experience of communication, face-to-face communication, and it gives us accessibility to equipment and facilities.
Okay, thank you very much. So it was our ambassador's opinion on online education. Now we will probably get to the second question, which is related to digital work. Do you think that we will ever go back to offices after this lockdown? And if so, how often we will actually go to work? How often we will actually commute to work? What impact will this hybrid way of working have on how we communicate, connect, and create things? And what will the word work mean if our offices get fully virtual and we lose those day-to-day social interactions? Oh, I'm sorry, I seem to forget one person. Yeah. Okay, do I have to give the word to her? Okay, I'm awfully sorry. I'm a very bad moderator. There is one person that I forgot to mention here. Okay. It's just the thing is that I don't see Energis on my on my screen. Well, sorry, I'm awfully sorry. Can you speak on the first subject, please?
No problem. All right. I was just gonna mention a few things that I agreed with many of the different topics that were discussed, but I also wanted to mention one in specific that was important. For example, we see a lot of the educational part. We see a lot of many more access because of the necessity that happened, that many of the different teachers were not prepared. So there was a global effort to many different organizations bring information, make it so that more accessible, and make it so that more people could find that information and use it. And it also helped innovation in the sense that we broke a little bit away from traditional different aspects, and we're able to look forward into more possibilities, other type of solutions to different problems. And that aspect was a very good and it was good for education, but in other aspects was also not as great considering, for example, it's difficult to have control of, for example, a classroom with many different students if you can't really interact with them, if you can't really see what their different actions are being. And also you lose individualism. For example, many different students need a specific cares, specific ways of teaching, and when you have internet classroom, you're all in one session, it's difficult to be able to reach each student. There are different types of learning disadvantages or different types of learning systems, and it's difficult to be able to implement them with each student if we have one singular room that we have to simply talk to a camera and hope that they are able to reach that information. So there is many different things that have been beneficial for us. For example, all those access, all the things that we have been able to share with each other, all the different communities of learning have experienced, and it's something perfect. But it also has effects in other areas. So I think it's more about, I think it's going to be a hybrid sort of thing from here on, because there are many benefits to it, but there's also different areas that you can't replace the social interaction of it, because also part of learning is seeing how different social interactions happen, and also you need materials for certain subjects. So I think it will be moving on a sort of hybrid situation so that we can learn from what we've already experienced and then continue moving on from there.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, sorry that I forgot about you. Well, next time we'll begin with you. Okay, so let's move to digital work. Anyway, I have actually asked the questions already, but well, I think it's a good idea to repeat them. Again, once again, will we ever go back to offices? And if so, how often we will have to actually go to work? So, and what impact will this hybrid way of working have on how we communicate, connect, and create things? And what will work mean if our offices get fully virtual and we lose those day-to-day social interactions? Okay, so Annalise, your turn.
All right, excellent. I think that we would definitely go into a bit of a hybrid situation, because very similar to the area of education, we're seeing different advances in considering that it was such an abrupt change into the world that we were seeing. It was very necessary that many different organizations, many different people went together and started working together from all around the world to be able to bring different solutions for the problems that we are immediately faced with. So there was many different things that were able to advance in those areas, and we were able to see, for example, that many of the different aspects of the works, the different areas, were able. Well, it wasn't necessary to be presential. It could be done from different situations. So I do think that many different areas are going to stay in what it will be online because of different situations. For example, comfort, environment, also easy access, different people that have to travel often. They would have to originally be stationary, but now they can move more freely and still do the work that they were assigned to do. So that's also going to be very good. But there's also the area that is affected by it. For example, overworking and boundaries in many different areas. Since it's something new, has different companies haven't been able to make a good balance yet in noticing that they can send, for example, emails and send different tasks at any time of the day because they're already at the house. They have the different devices that they need. So there is a little bit of problem in that area that we still have to work on, being able to establish work boundaries so that we don't overwork the different areas, and also be able to make sure that we have, for example, the social part. Because part of the different aspects of work and education are not only being able to do the work, to be able to learn the knowledge, it's also the social part of the interactions. There's many different things, for example, social work, and it's very important to be able to see the different clients, be able to interact with them, provide them with the different services. And there's many areas that is very important, the social interaction of it. Other areas are more information based, that they could continue to do their different aspects online. So I do think that it would be a hybrid situation. At the moment, most people would prefer, because there's also the factor of fear. So most people would probably prefer right now to stay in an online situation, but as we keep going, we're probably going to be able to see a more hybrid situation.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's hand it over to Asil. Asil, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I agree with her. Like digital life gives us the freedom of where to put our attention on, and gives us more control in our life and time. So we could work and travel and have our life and have our adventure time with digital life. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Luis.
I would like to say that I agree with what with what Mary said about being able to go back to the normal way of working, but only with certain areas of work, because for other ones it's better the way it is right now. I do think that whenever this pandemic gets under control, employers will ask for their employees to go back to the normal way of working, which is back to the offices. These may or may not be well received by most of the workers who, as the fact presented, actually like the new way of working. Now, regarding the current way of working, which is the hybrid one, I think that it's going to change basically how we're used to living. I believe that not working every day in the office is actually going to improve our creative side, because that way the so-called daily routines are most likely to disappear, and that may leave room for the creative side of our brains to work more. But the most important part, in my opinion, would be that we will start valuing more all the social interactions we have, and this would result in even deeper bonds with other people we communicate with. Now, on the other side, if the way of working goes fully virtual, that would probably mean more efficiency in work and probably better results. But it will also represent a lot of problems on the social side of our lives, because we will have even less interactions with people, and for us, being a social species, this could actually represent a lot of problems regarding our mental health.
Oh, thanks a lot. Let's pass the word to Ediput then.
Yes, thanks. Only for I'm agree with my parents, but I think nowadays people realize that some issues or jobs could be online. For example, Microsoft or tech company or programming companies, and which their home office is really common in some areas, but in my city or in my country, for example, and we have level traffic lights. And for example, red is total isolation, orange and yellow is medium, and green is like a prolonged return, taking the necessary measures. In the question that how often we will have to actually go to work, I think it depends. It depends for the workers. For example, education is the last level when that have returned to the school, but I think we can replace some things like conference, like meet together, and workshops, but not at all.
Thank you very much. Bertram, can you say anything?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think I agree with what you have said with all of you, and I think the online way of working has changed a lot, especially during this period of time. And I would draw on some like certain points. The first point, I think the automate office like a software did improve the efficiencies. In the past, we can never imagine that such webinar, such a conference will happen in Skype, but not in a face-to-face mode. And also maybe in academic, they are holding some conference is in different video streaming platform. It did change to our way of working. I think it's absolutely, and I would agree that this hybrid way of working will last for a long time, and even I heard some news, even some like like some company that they announce some news that they will allow their employees to work until maybe next year. Yeah, I think if they really have a good logistic arrangement, if they have a very clear rundown for what they have to do like every day, and what they want to achieve for every day, and anything, and I think it's a very good way, very effective way. It cross the time, cross the area and limitation, and it will make it happen. But I would think that although it's a very effective, although it's a very good, but sometimes if it is widespread, it will also cause some certain problem. For example, one thing I would draw will be alienation. The alienation is that if every day we work in our home, if every day we lack of the real opportunity to communicate with ourselves, every day we only focus on our work, it's very easy for us to lose the work-life balance. As well as we will feel hopeless. We don't know what are we doing, what am I doing now, and what's the purpose, what's the destiny for me in this job or in my career. I think this is quite similar to the previous questions that we lack of the social interaction with others. And I think these certain things need to be addressed. And I think this is a very big obstacle in terms of like online mode of working. As well as for certain jobs or certain professionals, I think maybe online working is not the perfect way for them to do. One good example is my job is a teacher. I still think that a teacher has the duty of care to the students, and it will be perfect if I can meet my students every day and teach to them face to face. And also, for example, if for the different personnel, they work in retail industry, they work in leisure industry. If it seems that zero chances for them to work online. And I think they also have to care about different professionals, which need to be on the site. That's my opinion.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thank you all for your opinion. And we are getting to the third question, which is related to digital communication, because it's not only work and education that is going online now. It's been a long time since it started, but actually what we are experiencing now is that communication between people and relationships between people are going more and more online. What I see, maybe that's my personal opinion, but what I see about the young generation is that they probably spend more time online communicating with their friends and peers than offline. As a teacher, I work at school, and I often see people sitting doing something with their cell phones, talking to their friends more often than they are talking to people who are sitting next to them. And of course, in the present day situation of the pandemic, it is getting more and more, well, can I use the word serious here? I don't know. Well, okay. The question is, can digital communication replace the real ones, the offline one? How can the isolation affect our psychological health in this connection? Okay, Adiput, can I ask you to begin?
Sure. I think digital communication cannot replace the real one because human beings need interact physically, and it allows you to connect with emotions better than online. It's something that you need to talk with your friends, you need to talk with your teachers, with workers. You have to talk with people outside, and it connects emotion, and that's the thing. But also we must recognize the work of digital communities that help us to have a better confinement. And for example, nowadays we can find digital communities about women in tech or mothers or a lot of digital communities. And I think this is an evolution for offline communities to digital communities. But also in some digital communities there are also offline activities, but it helps a lot. And the other question was, how can isolation affect our physiological health? I think it could affect our minds. For example, some people are more stressed than or before the quarantine. And also I feel like my emotion is like a roller coaster, because sometimes you feel happy and sometimes you feel stressed, and sometimes you feel that you have to talk with your friends or you have to go outside. And I think there are also digital tools for help us to do this and improve our emotions or our connections. But I think if some people that hear us, that now hear us, and pass with and has like a psychological item or psychological help, and that she or he needs to talk with a professional and about psychological. It's important. It's important to talk to someone that is professional.
Okay, thank you very much. Luis?
Yeah, I agree with what Ali said. Digital communication cannot replace the real one, the normal one. Digital communication should work as a facilitator for what we understand as real communication. We are very fortunate to live in the digital era because we have all these tools that facilitate the communication between ourselves. I'm talking about all these social media platforms that exist. But we shouldn't think of them as a replacement for the real one, because physical interaction is probably one of the most important things in a human being life. I said it before, we are a social species. We have to interact with other human beings. Otherwise, being isolated will most likely cause you problems regarding your psychological health. Either you could get depressed or you could simply start losing your mind. So in my opinion, digital communication is awesome. It's probably one of the best innovations in human history, but only as long as you're able to balance it with real communication in order to maintain a good mental health.
No, thanks a lot. Well, Annalise?
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, I think I agree with the different topics the different opinions that we've shared so far. But I would also like to mention that I think it's both important in both. It's a hybrid way of seeing it, because while it's social and personal in communications, the most important type of communication, because it's the one where we really connect, social interactions have also been very important because of specific reasons. For example, in many of our youth right now prefer this type of communications because you can often find specific people when trying to be able to interact about different areas. And I think that's one of the different aspects that attract so much to prefer going online communications over personal ones, in-person ones, because you can specifically try to find people that think alike, that have similar interests, that have similar opinions. And that's why I think it's also very important to have a good balance between the two, because obviously personal interactions are a little bit more meaningful in the areas that you can actually see the person, you can actually interact with them, have experiences with them. But it's also very important to acknowledge that social interactions are also almost as important, because you are able to find specific people of areas that might be what you need in certain times. For example, speaking of the psychological importance of the impact that it has had on our society during the pandemic, for example, it's very important to be able to talk about different things with different people. And if you can find someone that has a specific area that correlates to you, it's much easier to be able to find it online, considering the different areas, the different communities that exist. There's different, for example, Facebook has different groups that you can join, different pages about specific topics. So it's important to have a balance between the two, because obviously nothing can replace physical and personal communication with actual people, family, friends that you can know in real life. But it's also very important to acknowledge the importance and the impact that social interaction is also having on the different people, and also the psychological aspect of it. And more in that area as the psychological aspect, it's also very important because the pandemic has greatly affected that. Many different areas have been affected. Many people were accustomed to seeing people daily, interacting with other people, seeing those different situations, and suddenly they were cut off completely. So it's very important to be attentive of this, to be able to make sure the different people you know in your life, try to communicate with them, be it by calling them, be it by sending a message, because many of the different things that we were used to seeing were suddenly gone. And it's important to be able to acknowledge that that is something that is happening. That is something that is affecting most people, not just a few. Most people get affected by it. So it's important to be able to educate different people about these aspects and make them know, make sure that they understand that it's completely normal, and that it's completely normal as well to seek out help if we need in those different areas. So it's a balance that we need to make in between maintaining and being the main focus are personal interactions in real life, but also acknowledging and being able to use properly the tools of online communication.
Okay, thank you very much, Anris. Asil, please.
Okay. So I hear all of you, but my opinion is after what the world going through this year, it could for digital communication replace the real one. But in my view, real communication is better because it makes us learn about each other, and most important thing that we use conversation with each other to learn how to have a conversation with ourselves. So real communication can compromise our capacity of self-reflection. And digital communication, we can edit, we can filter what we our word. Words. We can filter our words. So we have been thrown in a perfection loop. and that affect our psyches. There is psychological health that makes us more noxious, more panic. We can being alone with people, or we like put in a concept like we how to say sorry, like give me just a moment. We like being in the concept like being alone together. We have been in this illusion of being alone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's been a brilliant speech. And finally, Bertram.
Yeah, thank you. And I think for the digital communication, if we are going to talk about the message transfer, I think it's totally fine that the digital communication can replace the real one. And we can direct message a person, we can even send an email, send audio to them. If it's only to transfer some message or convert some message, I think it's totally fine. But the communication is far more than just transfer the message. For example, when you talk with others, you can also sense the emotional changes of the person who you are talking with. When he or she is angry, when he or she is confused, you will sense that and you make some adjustments in order for a better communication. But through the digital communication, even though it is in the video conferring, but this is still the 2 dimensions. You cannot feel that in 3 dimensions way. So I think that it will never replace the real one. And it has certain effect to the persons who get used to digital communication, because they will lose a certain part of ability to sense the other's emotional change. Even though through the message, maybe we use emoji to replace our facial changes, and even though that maybe we send an angry face, but actually you are not angry at all. You are just trying to show that what you say, I feel that is not good. So just imagine if our children, they have been in digital communication for a long time, even in the real life, although you are very angry and you show an angry face, maybe he or she, our children, will not sense that. And I think this is a very big challenge maybe in the future. As well as another thing I want to mention is about the context, about the proper use of language. In digital communication, we will always use a certain things like FYI, for yeah, and something like we use the number 2 to replace 2, and we use a certain sense. But maybe in different settings, we have to adjust the usage of language. But if you also get used to digital communication way, and I think it will seems to be inappropriate when you go back to life and maybe in some formal settings and you use that language, use that way. And for the isolation effect, I think it maybe takes years. It maybe takes years until we find out whether it has the adverse or the positive or negative effect to our psychological health. But so far, I found that, especially for the children, they will feel lonely during the isolation. And it seems a not very negative effect to their psychological health. But as I said, I think it takes years. We will take years until we find the result. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks all of you for your, interesting ideas and for your general interest in this subject. I've heard a lot of things that I, probably have never heard before, even in connection with this, overall crisis that we are all discussing right away. Now I think it is time for the second step of our conference. It is for you to think for 3 minutes and to come up with your ideas, with your proposals for possible actions that we can take to benefit the most from this situation and to lessen the risks that we can have. Okay, I think, well, it is time for this stage, and let's get to it, okay? So 3 minutes, and we will get back. Okay, hello. It's YCC, and we are talking on the digital world of today. And here we have Ediput and Luis from Mexico, and we have Asil from Palestine. We have Bertram from Hong Kong, and we have Annalise from Puerto Rico. And now they are going to share their proposals on what we are going to do in the future to benefit the most from the present day situation. Bertram, will you please take the floor?
Okay, sure. Thank you. I would like to especially address on the education issue, which is a link to my professional areas. I would propose that especially during the current age, we should focus on two main issues in education. The first one is education quality, and the second thing is education equity. So I will start with education equity first. Although many schools has adopted online online mode of teaching and learning, but we still come to draw my attention that there are a group of students because their social and economic status, they cannot get access to internet. They don't have the very adequate bandwidth or appropriate mobile devices. So the first thing we have to not only just push everyone to the online teaching, but also we have to make sure that they have the equal access to the internet, and they also can get access to the quality education resources. I think this is the first thing I want to address. And for the second thing, which is education quality, knowledge transfer is very important. Well, the teacher have to be prepare some like resources which is suitable for their levels, and which also can give some feedback and progressively track students' development. But other than that, and I think we should also put information literature into our curriculum. Information literature. Information literacy, and this I think should be a subject maybe in the future to teach students how to be a good learner, how they self-direct learn, and also how they're going to get more learning autonomy, and also how they're going to handle the news, handle the information that they get from the internet, how they to differentiate between the fake one as well as the real one, and how they're going to use the internet as a platform and regard it as a public area to communicate with each other. I think these are all within information literacy need to be addressed maybe in the future curriculum. And also, I think for some different stakeholders, you should consider to add more feedback elements to the online resources, because for most of the education resources, it's just the one-way communication. I go to maybe a YouTube or a different website, I'm going to watch the video, and after that, it's finished at all. Even though I don't understand it, I have no way to seek help, and there's no back for me that what should I further to do it. There's no scaffolding for me to be from the beginner level to an advanced level. So I think it should also need to be considered by different professionals. So in conclusion, I think that education quality as well as education equity should be addressed in the future, and that is my proposal for that.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, Asil, what would you like to say?
Could you back to me later? Hello, could you back to me later?
Okay, shall we continue?
Could you back to me later?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, probably Asil needs more time. So, Attiput, can you add anything?
Yes. And I think I have two proposals. And number one is we must work to consolidate a society that has specific public policies to guarantee digital access and that assure internet access for minorities like women. And because during the last months, the digital gap, the digital access gap between women are greater and greater. And this is so important also for assured internet access. And the second one is we need to open more spaces to talk about mental health disorders and, for example, promoting communities, promoting tips, and normalize talk about mental health disorders is an illness because I think no, a lot of people think that is only and that is mean or that is not an illness, and I think it's important to talk about it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Anris, are you there?
Yes. All right. I would like to make proposition. I have a point, for example.
Anris, you are too quiet.
All right. Let's see. Can you hear me now? All right.
Yeah.
Excellent. I have a few propositions. For example, in the area of education, I have to agree with the different things that we've already proposed. For example, it's very important the access to that information. Many of the students don't have access to the different sources that we currently have. So it would be great to be able to make sure that people have those type of access before fully going on to that area. So that would be, for example, more internet access, easier to be distributed, easier to find it. But also, we could also look for different types of distributing the information. For example, we could do and TV. Many different houses might not have internet, but they could have TV. We could have sections of TV that are specific for education, different programs for different levels at different times, different days, and that integrated into the scheduling of our regular TV. And that way we could also have different types of education for those different people that have difficulty with access. Another thing that we could do, it could be TV, it could also be by radio, by being able to distribute information that way. There's many different radio stations that currently are not in use that we can habilitate for that purpose. There's also the importance of having manuals for the different topics. Many already use it, but it's not something that all different schools have access at this moment. For example, at the where I work currently, that I'm working for teaching robotics, we have a system, an academy where we have all the guides that we use, everything that we present, we have it backed up so they can also access it in case that they can't see us. So that would be something that would be very important that all different systems of education have a backup, that in case that the communication, the connection didn't work, that they could access it and then continue to work from there as well. As in the areas of work in specific, like I mentioned, in my opinion, it's very important the different boundaries. So I think it would be very important to be able to establish and communicate with the different workers to establish boundaries in those areas. Also be able to create hybrid work but there we go. Specifically in that area of hybrid, make JAWS specifically for that. Not just make it so that maybe sometimes it's hybrid, maybe sometimes we're in, sometimes we're out. Make something specifically for that area, for those people that are more comfortable there, or that's the only way that they can access their work at the moment, it would be great to make specifically jobs in different areas that have that concept of hybrid work. And the area of social, I also think it's very important what we mentioned about the psychological aspects of that. For example, in school and work, we could have different areas where it's, let's say, for like every once a month or more frequent, have an interaction with the different students, with the different workers of psychological aspects, so that they can work with them, be able to express their different situations that they have, so that the company or the school can work with them and accommodate the different situations they are having. And also continue in the area of social, it's also very important to continue working on, even though it's more important to have a personal connections, it's also very important to consider that sometimes it's not possible to have a social, a personal connection. For example, if we have family or friends that are in other countries, sometimes it's simply not possible to have in-person communication. So it's very important to also consider that fact and be able to continue developing the different social works, the different social communications that we have, to be able to make it more personal for those situations that we simply can't have the personal interaction, because it's also a situation that we have. We like to talk about how important it is to have someone in person and communicate with them, the social importance of that, but in some situations it's simply not possible. So we have to further our communications in person, but also develop and see how we can better the online options that we currently have in that area, so that we can make it more personal and be able to connect even with those that are physically far away, other countries, or simply cannot interact socially at the moment. Those would be my propositions.
Okay, thank you very much. Asil, are you there?
Yeah,
Hello?
I'm here. I'm here.
All right, great.
So, as a conclusion, what I said previously and what I heard previously from the participants, like, I understand like digital life gives us the ability to control our life and clean up the messy, demanding human relationship, no doubts about that. But we start to expect from technology and digital devices and less from ourselves. We designing technology that gives us the illusion of companionship without demands of friendship, and that's my biggest concern of this all. And I want really like for the people and for the human to appreciate the real communication, to start like building like what we do right now, conference, like have the interaction with other people to give our confidence, because of course we could see like not all of us have that confidence. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And finally, let's hand it to Luis. Okay.
Well, sorry. This COVID-19 worldwide pandemic represented pretty much a turnaround for how we were used to doing things. It forced us into changing not only the way we were used to working, the way we were used to studying, or the way we were used to interact with others, but pretty much the way we were used to living. I like to think that change always represents an opportunity. In this case, the fact that this disease forced us to change some of the things that we had been doing the same way for basically forever gave us the opportunity of actually experiencing new ways of doing those things. And I would dare to say that most of us got surprised by the fact that this new way of living isn't as bad as we thought it would be. Some would actually go even further and say that this new way of doing things is even better than what we were used to. Sorry. I'm not so sure about that, but what I would say is that both online classes and the hybrid way of working are probably what the not so far future will look like permanently. And if we as a society actually decide to make the transition from the old way of doing both of these things into the new one, we would be surprised with the results. If we were to completely change and evolve into what's being labeled as the new world, we will have to be self-conscious about all the challenges we could face. One proposal I would have would be coming up with a worldwide fund designated to ensure that all countries have the necessary infrastructure to keep up with the world progress. Because in the current world we live in, only a few countries have all the infrastructure to not only develop the new ways of education and working, but also to ensure them. For my second proposal, I believe it would be important to create a specialized health center in all countries. This health center will focus on the psychological health regarding having a small amount of social interaction outside of social network platforms. With this, we would be aiming to prevent psychological diseases such as depression due to the lack of physical interaction. Sooner or later, we will have to make the transition into the new world, and it is going to be our responsibility as the generation of future world leaders to see that this transition goes smoothly and that it helps to make this new world a better place.
Oh, thank you very much. We have heard all the conclusions by all our ambassadors. I can only say that it has been a great pleasure to see so many passionate people so interested in, well, social issues that we are facing right now. Thank you all. Thank you very much. And now I would like to turn the floor over to Liz for the few final words.
Thank you very much, Roman. Thank you, all of you. We are very excited. We have come to the end of this great World Virtual Young Citizens Conferences 2020 and this new virtual lifestyle that we are living now. And I think we did it great, guys. I am very, very proud of you, Energies, Luis, Bertram. By the way, for Bertram, he's a huge hug from Mexico because it's 2 a.m. in the morning in Hong Kong. So we know he needs to sleep, but he nailed it with all his comments. Andy, as I see you, thank you very much, dear. We know you had a little bit of trouble with your internet, but you made it. Thank you, all of you. Thank you to everybody who made possible this idea we had in the beginning of this pandemic, which we didn't know how to give this space to kids, and we were planning a lot together with all Milset Executive Committee and the YCC Committee to do this event. And well, we're very happy we have finished, but we have more for the next year. We hope we get back to be face-to-face in some spaces. But if it's not possible, we know these guys, our YCC ambassadors, will help us with new and better ideas to be closer as a humankind and care for each other in these times. So thank you very much. And I want to thank also all the countries that were watching, all the people from these countries. Thank you to Puerto Rico, Mexico, United Arab Emirates, Palestine, Belgium, Hong Kong, India, Thailand, Turkey, Kuwait, Italy, Germany, Chile, Peru, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Canada, Spain, Kazakhstan, Kenya, South Africa. Thank you very much for supporting us. Holland too is here in my list. Thank you very much. And well, we have come to the end. Please don't miss all the Milset programs. Have a great end of this year and keep safe, everybody. Thank you very much. Say bye, guys.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.